This is going to be your guide to how Pokemon spawn in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So as you play through the games, you're going to quickly realize that Pokemon spawn in different numbers in different areas, and you can really figure this out when it comes to Viridian Forest. Look at this little patch of grass and just the tons of Pokemon that are inside of it, and also even running out of it, so it's going to be a little hard to dodge, but there we go. And then as you play through the games, routes 1, 2, 3, other areas, caves, stuff like that, you're going to see that not as many Pokemon spawn. Now, as you go for catch combos, other chains, shiny hunting, and stuff like that, you're going to realize that, hey, there's probably a cap involved, and that's what we're talking about today. But before we talk about that cap, I also want to mention a few other things. That, you know, once you... Oh my god! Full-on shiny Rattata, what? Okay. I just... Every time. I've caught 6 shiny Pokemon now, all while recording a video. I don't even care. I'm going to use an... Do I want an Ultra Ball? Yeah, let's get our shiny Rattata in an Ultra Ball. Well, that's going to distract things a little bit. So what you want to do is you want to use a lure as well. Since this guide is about Pokemon spawning, it also helps to mention that by using a lure, you're going to make Pokemon spawn quicker as well as despawn quicker. So depending on the method that you're using for encountering Pokemon, the lure can be very helpful in that regard, but it's just going to be faster to leave the area, despawn Pokemon, come back, and then get them to spawn, or just quickly go into another exit, come out, and then have those Pokemon respawn as well. So by doing that, you're going to be getting as many Pokemon to appear as possible, and when we're talking about, you know, trying to spawn Pokemon, it's either for rare Pokemon, shiny Pokemon, or maybe to just kind of like refresh as you're in a high catch combo on a rare-ish Pokemon. So, you know, if there's like 3 Caterpie and then 1 Bellsprout and there's a limit of 4, well, by refreshing this, I have a chance of getting, you know, that other Bellsprout to appear if I'm on a Bellsprout combo or something like that, for example. And now that we have the basics out of the way, we get to go into the fun stuff, because after over a week of waiting, we finally have the max amount of Pokemon that can spawn in an area. So I want to talk about the spawn limits for most of the routes, but not all of them, because it'd be really boring if I'm like, Route 1 is 10. Route 2 is 4. You know, I'm not going to go through like that, but I want to also show you guys how crazy this works, because each route is different. The Pokemon that spawn that different. The number of Pokemon that can spawn is different. So depending on your goals, you might need to customize it. I'm going to show you guys my thoughts on some of these routes, and then it can maybe give you guys an idea as to if you've been doing it properly or if you've been doing it wrong, and then you can kind of change it up by going on to Poke-Earth on Cerebi and then seeing which areas have the best Pokemon or the best rates for the Pokemon that you're looking for. So Route 1, 10 Pokemon. I think that's cool. This is going to be one of the highest numbers that we see in the entire game, but it's kind of like, it reminds me of Pokemon Sun and Moon and Pokemon X and Y and like the 3DS generation of games, because there's a 100% catch rate on Route 1. So that means like you always run out there and you catch Pokemon. It's not the case for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, because you go to Route 1 and then you notice Pokemon are still going to be breaking out of your Pokeballs, but what they do instead is they give you more Pokemon to spawn. They introduce you with a higher amount of just like wild Pokemon, and it's like, okay, this is what you can expect. This is how it's going to be, and by having up to 10 Pokemon spawn, you can do quite a bit. And this is going to be some of the highest rates for finding Pidgey, Rattata, and Oddish, so if you're going for a shiny of those, go back to the basics apparently, because once we hop on over to Route 2, we start to see that this is the difference, you know, only 4. So there's 1 patch of grass to the south of Viridian Forest, there's 1 patch of grass to the north of Viridian Forest. Both of them can only spawn 4 Pokemon, but it's effectively the same Pokemon that we're going to be seeing up until this point anyways, so it doesn't really change too much. Only 4 Pokemon spawns. Not an incredible area, but it does have the little exit that you can reset from. However, that has nothing on Viridian Forest. 20 Pokemon! You can get a 20 Pokemon spawn limit in Viridian Forest. I thought it was 15, but I just didn't, you know, I didn't go through and count them all. I didn't like go to the biggest area to where I can see them all as well, because some of them will spawn off screen, some of them will be like across the forest in another patch of grass, so you can't even run directly to them. But wow, that's pretty ridiculous, and that's yeah, that just kind of shows like this is how much variance we can find when it comes to spawning. And if you're going for any of these Pokemon, there's unfortunately there's not an insane amount of diversity. There's still a good amount. And then we can also use this to talk about special spawns. So we have Pokemon like Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, Snorlax, Kangaskhan. You know, I've talked about rare Pokemon. I've done a guide. If you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend that you check it out in the description down below. But the thing is, there will only be 1. So it doesn't really change anything. If you run into a Bulbasaur, it despawns, and like you catch it or you run away, it'll despawn, and then it'll respawn, you run into it, and you can keep cycling through. So when it comes to rare Pokemon, the amount of Pokemon that can spawn in an area doesn't matter. You can go to like one of the worst routes, and it slightly matters depending on what's happening, because technically with 20 Pokemon that can appear, and if you're using a lure and they're all despawning like in about 20 seconds or something, that means if you get 3 Pokemon spawning at the same time, those 3 will despawn at the same time. If you have an area that has a spawn limit of 4, well, you have 1 Bulbasaur, or like 1 rare Pokemon, a Pokemon spawn, Pokemon spawn, Pokemon spawn, and then the limit is hit. So if you run into the Bulbasaur, it despawns and a Pokemon fills up that limit instead of the Bulbasaur, that could be a problem. Now, from what I've seen, it seems like it tries to force the rare Pokemon over anything else. But there could also just be some weirdness that goes on because it's all the same. I thought that like the rare Pokemon was different to the max spawns, but it isn't. And that's why we have this information. So now we have wild Pokemon on Route 3. Ah, the infamous Route 3, you know, standing still versus flying over the mountains with Charmander and stuff like that. This is where you get Rattata, Spearow, Sandshrew, Mankey in Pokemon Pikachu, or Ekans in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. And you can get a max spawn of 6, so about what I expected. And also, like, each spawning is going to be different. So ground is separate to sky, is separate to water. All of those, they have their own tables that Pokemon can spawn in. So if you see Pokemon in the sky, it's not affecting Pokemon on the ground, which I think is a very nice thing. But then we go to Route 4. Skip it. Don't do any hunts in Route 4. There's no reason to. It's the same Pokemon that spawn in Route 3. You have 2 patches of grass. You have more Pokemon that can spawn. Route 4, max spawns, 4. So that's going to be pretty terrible. I also want to talk about Mount Moon. So Mount Moon, the upper floor has a limit of 10, but the lower floors have a limit of 5. So that means if you're going to be hunting for it, you might just want to like go down the ladder, come up really quick, and then get a lot of Pokemon that way. Now what I want to test, and I'm going to be doing a separate video on this later, probably like in the next day or two, is I want to test that, you know, does the spawn limit affect how fast Pokemon spawn? You know, are we going to reach that limit of 5, 6, 7 every time at the same amount? Or if there's a limit of 10, 20, it's going to fill up a lot quicker. Either way, Mount Moon, you can get a lot of Pokemon to spawn on the first floor because it's a cave. Everything can spawn everywhere, and that's something to take away from it. Route 5. This is another example of a completely dead route. Don't do any hunting here because these Pokemon spawn here on Route 6. And you can leave and come back. So you have an exit right there on Route 6 if you want to refresh all the Pokemon really quickly, but also it's a large area. So as you're running from place to place hunting down Pokemon are going to be respawning, despawning, and then you're just going to be able to find good rates, but it's the same thing, you know, Jigglypuff, Growlithe, Abra, or Vulpix, those are going to be the desirable Pokemon, same odds, same everything. You just don't have to worry about the little ledges and hopping around and flying around chasing down Pokemon. Also, 6 Pokemon can spawn here as well. So that's kind of an example like, yeah, it is unfortunate. I think one thing that I'm slightly disappointed about with Pokemon Let's Go is diversity in certain areas. Like, I was hoping that maybe there'd be like 1 Pokemon different. Instead of throwing Pidgey everywhere, give us like something a little more exciting in some of the areas. If we go east of Vermilion City to Route 11, now this is where things start to kick up again. We can see 8 Pokemon will spawn around here. So yeah, you gotta battle all the trainers because it's just annoying worrying about dodging them in the maze. But overall, there's a lot of grass, there's a lot of Pokemon that can spawn. This is where you find Drowsy and Mr. Mime. As for the other Pokemon, just because we have like 8 Pokemon spawning here, remember, you go back to Route 1, that's going to be way better for getting these 2 guys and then their evolutions as well. So Drowsy, Mr. Mime, unique Pokemon in this area, high spawning, good rates. It's actually just pretty strong overall when it comes to these Pokemon. Oh, Route 7 and 8. Now these places, again, really no advantage here over a place like Route 6. Except you can run in and out of the thing, but only 4 Pokemon can spawn at a time. So every time you refresh, you're only getting 4 Pokemon. The real only reason to be here is to go for a Porygon on a rare spawn or something. And it is kind of neat to have like a Ninetales or a Kadabra pop up, but hunting them, you know, you can just evolve an Abra or Vulpix or something like that. So it is a really weird place to encounter Pokemon in general, because spawn tables are very similar to Route 6, and it's also going to be the same for Route 8. Route 8, or not, wait, that's Route 17. Where's my Route 8? 1 second, I didn't load that. Okay, Route 8 is also going to be just even worse because you have 4 Pokemon that can spawn in this scattered little patch of grass right here. No way of quickly refreshing the area and stuff, so that was what we have. Check out some other areas. So Route 17, the old cycling road, this awesome park where you find Pokemon. 8 Pokemon can spawn in these large patches of grass, so you can have a lot of room to just kind of reset from Pokemon from there, and you can find a lot of cool Pokemon, with a shiny Ponyta being one of the most desirable, but also Eevee can appear, so this is a pretty good place to find specific Pokemon as well. Wanted to make a quick note about Route 9. Just if you're going for, you know, Nidoran, Nidorino in the early game, go to Route 9, not Route 10. Separate routes, different spawning. Route 10 only has 4 Pokemon that can spawn. This little patch right up here is going to be 6. and effectively the same Pokemon. Krabby's going to be on Route 10, so that's going to be like really one of the only differences. And then I want to kind of like scale ahead into some of the other places that you'll find in the game, like Route 23. So Route 23, 8 Pokemon can spawn. I've actually kind of noticed that. I was like, oh, I'd expect like 5, 6, 7 here, but now it's actually 8, and you can effectively get the same Pokemon as well. They're harder to catch because of the higher level, but that can be manipulated in its own ways. And there's also some cool rare Pokemon that can appear. 1% chance on the Executor, Execute being exclusive here on the 14% chance, and still 8 Pokemon spawn is going to be really nice. So a lot of Pokemon that you can counter here at various points of the game. And then like other places, Victory Road, 10, so caves, just having a lot of Pokemon spawn, a lot of areas. Things are going to change as you go around for some places, but not for others. So like in Mount Moon, you hit a basement floor, that's going to be 5. Here, it's going to be 10 still. So that's kind of the idea I want to show you guys. Compare Pokemon that appear on similar routes. Try to figure out which routes have better grass layout and better spawning rates, and then you can use that to kind of customize how you're going to be targeting for 5IV competitive Pokemon versus how you're going to be shiny hunting, where you can refresh Pokemon, how you want to encounter them, and stuff like that. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.